I do. That's what I'm doing. I'm retyping. In this case, I'm retyping this novel here by Jack Kerouac called Big Sur. And the reason I'm doing it right here is because this is a story about a journey that the narrator of the story took into Bixby Canyon. He went down into Bixby Canyon 3 times over the course of 6 weeks and sort of had a bit of a spiritual collapse. What I do is when I'm finished, when I get down to the bottom of the page, which I just did, I just take it out of the typewriter and stick it right back in. So the whole novel is present on this one sheet. So at this point, 140 pages into it, and I've put it all on this one page.
How is that a metaphor for the book?
Well, what happens actually, there's a second sheet behind it, and that becomes almost like a ghost image of the top sheet, and I mount the 2 pages then side by side in a diptych form, which looks, then basically like 2 pages of a book, which is a rectangle of black text inside of a rectangle of white in a heightened way. And so it becomes this, it's very specifically, formally a representation of that book, and it also contains all the words of that book. So it's all contained there. We abstract it, process it, and it becomes this impression. First novel I retyped of these 100 was Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And he said he wanted to be a writer. He retyped The Great Gatsby and The Sun Also Rises out in their entireties out as a way, in a brute force way, which I think suits him. And, that's how he wanted to get inside the novel. I try to make this a very active reading for myself, that I'm not just typing, that I'm not zoned out or in another space or something like that. And there's a lot of that in here. There's he has good stuff throughout. That's what you get. The little epiphanies that make that's what makes reading so enjoyable. I type as I go. I think that part of it, I've worked that out, the mechanics of that, so that I'm not. I still have to hunt and peck, but I think that causes me to slow down in a good way for the most part, to the point where, I think I'm forced to contemplate a little bit more what I'm actually reading. This project is, of course, my going to all these different places that are charged with literary significance.
Is that where you're performing each?
Yeah. So I've been all around the country, the world, doing these at different spots that relate to the novels. And, there's a whimsicality to that and an absurdity to that, but I think there's also an effort, at least on my behalf, to make those pilgrimages mean something more than just sort of the surfaced, let's buy the mug and t-shirt that I've been to Hemingway's house kind of experience. There's a very formal output. There's this close devotional effort to do the reading, almost bordering on the absurd in the sense that I'm reading it to the point of rewriting it. And then there's this tapping into the literary pilgrimage and trying to avoid the cliche of that, but in lieu of that, trying to more excavate what that means and get inside of it. I've done 37 out of 100. The project is a 10-year undertaking, so I'm a little past 3 years in it. And this is the second of 4 that I'm doing this summer here on the Central Coast. My pace now is about 10 a year. That's about what it takes. When I live in LA, and when I first started, I did the first few in my studio as I was figuring it out, so that was easy. There were no logistics there, but 8 to 10 to 12 a year is basically going to be the pace for the next 6 or 7 years. 17 of the first 25 diptychs were shown at the Museum of Contemporary Art San Diego last summer in La Jolla, and my hope is that at the end, when I've got all 100 done, sort of as something of a culmination, that all of them will hang together. My through line is the typewriter in literature, which basically means most of the 20th century. I'm not going to be typing something that precedes the introduction of the typewriter as a commercially viable tool for a writer. And in fact, Mark Twain, when he submitted Life on the Mississippi to his publisher in a typewritten manuscript, was the first typewritten manuscript submitted to a publisher. So that marks the beginning of it, and Most writers are off the typewriter by the 1980s, although some, like Don DeLillo, Tom Wolfe, they still continue to use it. Will Self, the British writer, has gone back to it. But for the most part, you know, the vast majority of typing writers are gone. Hunter S. Thompson used an IBM Selectric. I retyped 3 Kurt Vonnegut novels at the Kurt Vonnegut Memorial Library in Indianapolis. So, I mean, the Smith Corona was interesting. You know, when you hit the return, the carriage comes zinging back, right? And so that sliced the paper a couple times on me, which just it distressed the paper a little bit differently. On close inspection, no two are alike. Tim Youd, Y-O-U-D, the 100 Novels Project.